This is the 8-9 combo. I'm Brett McKay. This is Harry Jones, and this, mate, is Games of the Week. Hello, how you doing?
How's it, Brett? I'm a few days away from actually meeting you in person. And I was thinking about how that could go. It can go
You all
one of three
packed?
ways. We've had this almost 3 years of potting uh, across the virtual lines, meet each other usually in your nighttime and my morning, and suddenly we're going to be at places together at lunch, having beers, meeting with mutual friends. It could go really
Same time
horribly. We
zone.
could decide, I never want to pub with you again now that I've met you. Or
Yes.
it could be like, we're like brothers, separated across the ocean. Or it could be somewhere in the middle. You usually say
It
it's
could
somewhere in
be
the middle.
anything.
It could be just the
Yeah,
same old, same old. And
could be anything.
that delightful tussling chemistry we have will just be enhanced by our in-person meeting. I'm looking forward to it. I am thinking though about what to wear at a press conference in a press room with press with journalists. I've never like
You'll be
trafficked with you guys
fine.
before, so I don't know.
You'll be fine.
Don't you guys all
Just
wear
dress.
like shirts with letters on them, like logos? No?
Not
Okay.
if we're going to avoid it. No, just dress like Jeff Parks, mate. You'll be fine. It's round 5 of the Rugby Championship, and
I'm
we're
gonna dress like Jeff
really
Parks. This is amazing. I know
And
what to
we're
wear.
really pleased to be brought to you through the tournament by Chasing the Sun 2, the wonderful
Yes.
5-part all access series documenting the Springboks' journey to their memorable 2023 Rugby World Cup win in France, and which is now available to watch on Rugby Pass TV
Legally. It's available
worldwide,
legally now.
but not in South Africa. Just head to rugbypass.tv and sign up for free and watch it and enjoy it and love it as much as we do and have. It's the start of the end of another rugby week, mate, and we are a day early, I should say. We normally do this once teams are out, but impending travel schedules mean that we can't do that. So we are a day early. The teams haven't been named. The Box have been named, haven't they?
Yes, the Bucks have been named, so we
Yes,
can
the
talk
Box have
about
been
that
named.
in reality.
Um,
But all Wallabies, we can always speculate, which is kind of fun.
Wallabies, All Blacks, yeah, and Argentina yet to be named. And do make sure you go back and find episode 32 of the 8-9 combo with Sumo Stevenson. A really enjoyable and I think a really forthright discussion on the state of the game in New Zealand and Australia as both countries battle to catch up with the rest of the rugby world. So it was a fantastic chat. We loved it. And I'm
What
quite
I
sure
like about
you will as
is
well.
that Sumo left our pod, I guess went to sleep, woke up and went into his breakfast show, and then he
And
spent
carried
about
on.
3 hours talking about our show. I mean, like, he
Yeah,
just used that as the outline. I thought it is kind of rough every day to come up with 3 hours, whatever he has to fill, which could also explain why sometimes he goes off the rails. But in this case, it was kind of interesting. You go, oh, so I listened to it as like a, what's it called? Epilogue. You're like, oh,
yeah.
okay, so that's
Yeah.
what you would have said if we given you 2 more hours.
I wonder if he did his breakfast show with a helmet on.
He's a different personality in his breakfast show though, because
Yeah,
Izzy Dag is there as a foil, and so Sumo comes off more like the older brother, the wise guy.
yeah.
Whereas when he's a guest, he could be madcap.
He's
Yeah.
he does my job. You do the dag job.
When he's a guest, well, it's like when you were a guest, and I guess we're going to be a guest soon again on Marty Devlin's show. It's like you have freedom, Brett
You do.
McKay, raw,
Yep,
unleashed.
you do. Round 5 of the Rugby Championship this weekend, mate. Australia v New Zealand in Sydney on Saturday, 3:45 local time, 5:45 in New Zealand, at 7:45 in the morning in South Africa, and Argentina v South Africa in Santiago del Estero Saturday night, 6 o'clock local time. That's 11 p.m. in South Africa the night before.
I love watching you do
I think.
maths.
I can't. Time
Correct.
zones struggle. It's 7 a.m. Sunday morning in Australia, and that is breakfast rugby, which I
Brekkie
can't wait for.
rugby.
That first Bledisloe Test of the year, mate, is that is the big game this weekend. I think it is going to be really, really interesting. It is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what the bounce back factor is from New Zealand coming from 2 tests in South Africa. It's going to be interesting to see how much of a bounce back factor there is from the Wallabies coming off that really, really disappointing loss in Argentina as well. So where do you want to start?
The Bledisloe is so interesting because in some ways it's the most beautiful and also the most crippling thing for Australian rugby. It's like this thing that's the benchmark, and yet it's such a horrible benchmark. It's like you're playing in under eights and you got to play the under 12s sometimes for years on end. And then these moments when the Wallabies catch up or supersede them and win the Bledisloe, they don't seem to last long enough. And so just kind of this tantalizingness of like, what's it called? Where you're chasing up the hill forever. You finally get to the summit and then you go down the other side. So
yes.
I think the one blessing here is I think Joe Schmidt, like our friend Johan from Pretoria says all the time, Johan says that Joe Schmidt would have been dreaming about this matchup for a long time. And there's something to be said about a clever coach like Eddie Jones planning for Brighton against the Springboks. If you think about something for long enough, and who knows more about this current vintage of the All Blacks than Joe Schmidt, that you might have something that's different from what people are saying, which is a blowout, a sleeper, a snoozer. There is a chance here in Sydney of Joe springing some kind of surprise that at least makes it Jeopardy suspenseful. That's what I'm hoping for, since I'm going to be there.
Yeah, likewise. And, from a personal point of view, my Bledisloe Cup record is not great, as in terms of games I've
going
seen
in person
live. Yeah. The last.
You never got with me, and I'm very good luck.
I've never been with you. No.
I'll say this though: it's both on paper, it looks like a mismatch, and then again, you peel back some layers.
The bookies think it's going to be a massive mismatch for what it's worth.
But when you pull back some layers, you see that it's not quite. This is not that great an All Blacks team. Some of the things that they've in their 4-3 record. The two they dropped to the Springboks. What's lost in some of the New Zealand coverage is how different that Springbok team, how experimental it was in some cases. At the end of the match they lost, they had generational player Bowden Barrett with TJ Perenara and Damien McKenzie all tested and tried up against Sasha, Jaden, and nobody. So in some ways, it's
Afalali Fati at the back. Yeah.
So I think the Wallabies do, if they play the right game style, and I'm sure Joe knows what that is. I think if they play the right game style and they don't fall into the trap of trying to out All Black the All Blacks, I really think Wallabies can do some damage here.
Again, I'm sweating on that to be the case. Look, I'll be stunned if this hasn't been the angle that everything that Joe Schmidt has done throughout the Rugby Championship, and maybe even going back to July. I'm sure everything he has tried has been with an eye on these Bledisloe tests. So let's just try this, tight five setup and see how it goes, because it might work. It might give the All Blacks a bit of a headache.
So on selection,
that's an example.
Do you think this team coming up is the best available Joe Schmidt team that we're going to see finally? Where we go, that is who he thinks is best, if all available.
I'm still not sure about that though, because I think there's still enough guys missing the injury that he still maybe doesn't know. I think this will be the closest to full strength of the squad that he currently has. And it looks like Hunter Paisami is going to come straight back in at 12. It looks like Lukan Salakai-Loto will be back in the picture somewhere.
For Paisami, Ikatal, which is clearly the best midfield available right now.
Yeah, Fraser McWright will come back in if he's fit, and he'll make a big difference. And that's not at all to undersell or downplay Carlo Tizzano's input for the last three tests, because he's been fantastic.
Tom Wright back at 15, but
that makes sense.
The one thing you're missing and you're avoiding, and probably on purpose, is number 9. So who are the 9s?
Yeah, so certainly the reports are that Nick White comes back in, and I got to say I am a little bit surprised by that. If the thinking is that they want to play a game that White and Lolosio together are familiar with, then I get that. I am a little bit surprised though that we haven't seen this previously, because it certainly felt like Jake Gordon was really feeling the Joe Schmidt mold, if that makes sense. He was playing the game that fits a Joe Schmidt style, and I've said it several times this year already. I thought he was at best third in line and maybe fourth or fifth, but he has played well. I've got to give him that credit.
So if I have to speculate inside the Joe Schmidt brain and also his surrounding coaches, it would be that a 9, 10, 15 matrix that's familiar with each other from Brumby's days. You have Nick, you have Noah, and you have Tom. It seems like game management there is optimized, and it doesn't want anything new. I think you just want something that he can. Okay, so if we put the first 25 plays on the board and we do a storyboard of this test, I think Joe Schmidt, he's going to return to his sort of roots and his methods of game planning a game, like to the nth degree. No one game plans like Joe Schmidt. And if he does that, Nick White
games
is a bit of a coach on the field at this point. I think he can see things, and if he can just shut up and not, make the ref mad, Nick White can direct all of his verbals to his own players. I think that's good. And because Noah's a pretty quiet guy. And so if you have, loud guy at 9, loud guy at 15, and you have, someone who can execute like Noah at 10, that seems to be something that could trouble the All Blacks. What we haven't talked about is the All Blacks. And are they just going to trot out the same old thing, or are they using this as experiments as well?
And we sort of touched on this with Sumo earlier in the week about that they're still sort of playing without their identity, and again that's a theme that we've touched on several times this year. And I have to admit, I don't really know what team Scott Robinson is going to throw out yet, because I'm still not convinced he knows which is his best 15, and maybe it's because he doesn't know what his best back line is. Maybe he's got a better idea of what his best forward pack looks like. But I feel like we're just as likely to see Beauden Barrett at 10 and Damien McKenzie at 15 as we are to see, Beauden Barrett back on the bench or him at.
When Kiwis are upset about their team, they always talk about the 10. When South Africans are upset about their team, they always talk about loose forwards. And I don't know, for the Wallabies, I think it's sort of similar. They'll talk about 9, probably 9 and 10.
9 and 10. Yeah,
I've heard a lot of chatter about Damien. They keep talking about Damien as an experiment or a young guy. He's old. He's established. He's done.
He's played 50+ tests.
At this point, it's put up or shut up. So it might be one of the situations where he says, Damien, I'm on the edge here, boy. Lad, I want you to show something, or I'm gonna, on the end of year tour, we're gonna go a different direction. Now, that might be interesting if you see, the best version of Damien, because you haven't seen McKenzie at his finest in 2024.
I don't know that we've ever seen Chiefs fly half Damien McKenzie ever play for the All Blacks.
Yeah, it's just been glimmers. Like 20 minutes here, 10 minutes there, but not a comprehensive Dan Carter type. I will manage this game. I will put this game on my terms, and I think that's what
he's
All
not
Blacks
that sort of player.
But I think they want that right now, because I think in their heart of hearts, they're going back now and realizing it isn't the lack of flair or attacking brilliance. It's that we haven't been able to control a game from minute 0 to minute 80. And it didn't happen in England either. In England, you had cameos by Beauden Barrett to save the day. So I think that's interesting for the Bledisloe, because I know they think they can bully you. I am absolutely sure that the New Zealand mindset is, okay, this won't be that hard, because even if we're not playing that great, we'll just bully
and we will win it well. Yeah. Do you think they could spring a surprise anywhere? Do you think they could name someone in a position which will leave everyone going, huh?
Yeah,
I did not see that coming.
The one area, and it's probably because of Wallace Satiti playing so well, is I think that this might happen, is a shift of positions in the loose trio. And for the first time in a long, long time, just have Artie either from the bench, which is weird, I know, or at 7, and just have a big ball carrying 8 and just play that strength and a hard workhorse 6. And that's interesting because of Fraser McRae coming back into the mix. So you have, you'll have the supreme fetcher, you'll have the best ball over the ball player being Wallabies.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting because, and again, we're assuming McBride comes back in, but again, they wouldn't have picked him for the squad if he's not right to play this first test. So I think it's a fair assumption that he comes straight back in at 7. What's New Zealand's response to that? Do they think they can get away with Savia at 7, or does Sam Cane have to stay there?
Yeah, and the Sam Cane is interesting. He's playing as a great warrior will, but he's got limitations and he has no real 2027 future glide path. So it's kind of weird. Like, this is the year if you're going to start grooming.
He's retiring. He's announced his retirement at the end of the year.
Like, why don't you use this year to start looking at that? And if you solve every problem with Sam Cane, you're also solving it with one of the more limited, albeit hardworking, brave, incredible players, but it still doesn't really give you any real flair. When you put Artie to 7 and you have a hard ball carrier at 8 and you load your bench with Sam Cane, Luke Jacobson, whoever you want to, I feel like that's a better look. And I think what I'm hearing from New Zealand world is that is the one area they're the least happy with, is how the loose trio has lost the breakdown in successive weeks against the Bucks.
Yeah. It's an interesting notion. You're right. If you're solving the problem with Sam Cane, who has announced that he will retire at the end of the year, then you're also saying that you can't solve it with Dalton Papali'i.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. That's exactly what you're saying. And there's another thing going on in New Zealand, which is, okay, the team that played the most test rugby looking Super Rugby, and if we're going to be only Super Rugby, pond people, why are the Blues so unrepresented in
I was going to say this.
And they're the back instead of the forward. The Blues forwards were the ones that bullied the Aussie teams. It wasn't the Chiefs. It wasn't the Crusaders this year.
Yeah. No, it was the Blues. I was going to say this the other night, when we recorded with Sumo, that we're talking about that. Scott Robertson is finding out quickly that this isn't Super Rugby. Yet, if there's one common thread from all his success at the Blues to what he's still doing now, it's that he's not picking Blues.
Yeah,
he's just not picking the Blues. And
and this is very funny. This is going to tie into some love hatred of the Blues themselves. Our friend Belinda Goose Glenn from South Africa told me something interesting this week. She said it's like the All Blacks are really unused to losing, and they've named a coach that's really inexperienced in losing. And when you start naming certain players who are like from the old regime, they're not used to losing. Maybe in some ways what you need is people who have clean slates. And I thought that was actually pretty smart, because what you're looking at is sometimes you keep solving the problem with Sam Cane and Beauden Barrett. You're making no steps for the future. You're not doing any succession planning, because how long is Sam Cane? He's what, three more games? Is he going on the tour or not? And then you have Beauden Barrett, who's living on borrowed time. You have a succession of people that you're leaning on, like the midfield combination. Why is he so inflexible? And I thought when Razor was named, he'd be the most flexible, unusual, unconventional coach. Turns out he's still got Rico Ani at 13 and Artie at 8. Okay.
Yeah. Look, we have indulged in a significant amount of selection speculation. We can see,
which is unlike us, by the way.
Which is not like us. We don't usually do this, but we are, to repeat the point from earlier, having to record this a day earlier. So if you are listening after the teams have been named, obviously let us know why what we were saying is complete
balderdash. Yeah.
Complete nonsense. So a quick one before we move on. James Slipper, presuming he comes off the bench, I can't see Angus Bell not starting, will become the most capped Wallaby, surpassing George Gregan. And I've just got all the time in the world for James Slipper, friend of the pod, another milestone for the pod, and just hope he has a stormer on Saturday night. I really do.
He is every man. He's the kind of guy you look at. I think if you meet him, talk to him, you wouldn't assume he was a Centurion prop for a major rugby playing nation. He just looks like a guy.
And he would have been the first. He would have been the first to say, "I'm not going to play 100 tests. Don't be ridiculous." So he's got all his accolades.
It's a triumph for the fans. Like a fan could imagine, if he could do it, maybe I could do it.
He's so unassuming. It's just the best. He scored 2 tries in a Brumbies game years ago, and I said to him, "When was the last time you scored 2 tries in a game?" He said, "I don't even think I scored 2 tries in the backyard."
Oxenshire has now taken over the title, I think, as the most caps for the Springboks without scoring a try. Like, you want to get
is that right?
Not scoring a try with lots of tests. You always look at props.
What's he up to?
Because
What's he up
hookers
to?
score tries like crazy.
They do.
Let's see.
How many's Ox played?
Ox is 34 tests. I think Vincent Koch at 59 messed up and scored recently.
Scored his first test try in his 99th test.
Okay, so Ox could, but Ox is a ball carrier, and of course, I
Yeah.
would say he did score twice in Adelaide in 2022. But sorry,
Was it Owen Franks that was?
Oh yeah, the Franks brothers were notorious for not scoring.
Owen Franks, he scored his first test try very, very late.
Yanni Duplessis was very skilled at not scoring tries. Like he would find a way, even though he was over the try line, to drop it, or try to do double movements.
Let me tell you, from my very, very limited playing days, I didn't have to find ways to not score. Argentina, South Africa in Santiago del Estero.
The decider. The mother of all matches. That's the mother city, apparently, and it's one of the first ones settled. And the stadium has also got mother in the title. I just feel like this is going to be a niggly match. Don't you feel like? Don't you just sense there's going to be some fisticuffs and handbags at noon?
Could be. Rassi has sent an experimental side out into the over the precipice again. It's still a decent looking team. Interesting that it's been revealed though that Sasha Feinberg and Gomezulu has gone under the knife. Is he gone for the season now? Will he not even go on the tour later than
No, it's actually a minor clean out. What he did is he tweaked his knee before Ellis Park, didn't tell the coaches how bad it was, which is normal. Like you're on the eve of, you don't want
young guy wants to hold his spot.
But it did affect his place kicking. I think one of the coaches knew on that miss, that relatively straightforward miss. After the 65 meter get, that something was wrong, and then he came in heavily strapped for Cape Town.
Yep.
But then it was revealed in his remarkably honest press conferences that Rossi does, that they're mad at him because they said, you have to tell us exactly what's going on with your body, because it hurts the team down. And so apparently he's going to be actually fined for November. So that tells you a little bit about what it is. The other thing that Rossi revealed is, and this is also unusual, that Ruan Norcia, who's been one of the finds of the season, a line-out caller, a real work rate guy, Rossi said he's struggling with the physicality. You don't want to have that tag in a buck camp, but I like it in some ways because it's telling the guy, and I think he's told it to him to his face, you're going to have to get more physical, otherwise you're going to be stuck at the 4th or 5th selection. Like when people come back. And if you want to stay, which I think Rowan does, you're going to have to up the ante. So that's one more reason why I think this could be niggly, because what could go wrong with Thomas Lavanini and a young, 4-cap guy, a Bach saying, you got to get more physical.
Surely now, just for shits and giggles, they start Lavanini and Guido Petty. Surely.
Yeah, have to. And what a great line-out challenge for Malcolm Marks to be throwing to the young Rowan Norcia caller.
Well,
and they'll spin it around. And then they've got, these premier line-out thieves. I mean, Kremer can get up in the air. Pablo Matera can get up in the air. Juan Martin Gonzalez can. They've got
Gonzalez gets up so quick.
The line-out stacked, and they can lift each other. They're all tall. The only thing that, I wonder about with the Pumas is, I don't know, that scrum might really wobble.
Yeah. And it wobbled at times against the Wallabies in both games.
If it did against the Wallabies, imagine what it's going to do against the Bucks.
Not for very long in the second game, really. Exactly.
To illustrate how Rossi's done his team this week, I've shown you that the back line, so what represents here is high cap guys, starting lineup, and the back line is all dark green for our YouTube guys.
Yeah.
Look how the back line is stacked from the beginning, and then you have Monty Lubbock and Jaden Hendricks are coming on in the end. However, in the forward pack, it's very much
it's all over the shop.
You got a pretty seasoned front row, but very inexperienced lock pairing. Yeah. You've got Salman Murat and the aforementioned Norcia. That's tiny caps, and then you have Marco van Staden, Ben Jason Dixon, our friend, and then Jasper Visa. That's a very inexperienced
That's a young team.
And I remember we talked about the back five of Argentina being really good. Petty, Lavanini, Kremer, Matera, and Gonzalez. So I think this match is all going to be about that first half. Can Argentina win an advantage with that? Because on the bench, you've got Eben, Etzebeth, Quacha Smith, they're familiar. bomb squad routine.
Is there going to be an adjustment for the box with Malcolm Marx starting again? Because he has been playing off the bench a lot for the last 12 months or so.
He has, but so the pairings there matters too. The starting front row is Tankatoy and Ox, and Marx played with Ox for a long time as part of the bomb squad. Ox was kind of a bomb squad guy when Kitsoff was starting, and so there's familiarity. Apparently, that the three top front rows of South Africa just live together, just scrum together. They are like really conversant. I also found that every time Malcolm Marx does get a start, he plays brilliantly. So there's probably a part of him that thinks it's exciting to start.
It's no doubt. And, there's still, for all the talk about the bomb squad and finishing tests in style, there's always rugby players want to start games. There is still that element to it. So, it's going to be interesting. What do you fear about Argentina at home?
I think they grow an extra leg. It's a remote stadium. It's semi-arid up in the north. I talked to Carlos, the RG, from back in the old days. I just said, tell me about this city. And he said it's really strange that it's being played there. It's the 12th biggest city in Argentina.
I can't remember a test being played there.
No, never. It's been a soccer stadium. It was built for the soccer for the World Cup coming up, I think, the Pan American. And it's the first time the Pumas have played there. It's 30,000-ish kind of stadium. It's close to Tucumán, so that is a name that we recognize. But it's not close to a large metropolitan area, and it's extremely hot. Like the record temperature for this week is like 42, and often it's 35. At game time, it might be a pretty hot, dusty,
That's why
arid.
it's later at night. Yeah,
that will actually, strangely enough, play into the hands of guys like Kwagga Smith. It'll be like being back on his farm, like wishing it rain. And
we'll see how it goes.
The fullback Fassi might also have some, a significant speed edge on a hard field like that.
Yeah, no, we'll see how it all plays out. It will be very interesting to see what the Rugby Championship table looks like after this weekend, what the margins look like, what the results look like, and
Could be over.
It could be over. Could be over. Argentina could sew it up completely. To round this week out, Pacific Nations Cup finals are being played in Osaka on Saturday. USA Samoa to play the third, fourth playoff. Japan and Fiji playing the final at 7:05 local time in Japan. It is round one of the ERC and the Premiership this weekend, and I like in the ERC that there's three derbies on Saturday: the Dragons and Ospreys in Newport, the Stormers and Bulls in Cape Town, and Munster and Connaught in Limerick. The Sharks Lions game in Durban has been postponed. Why didn't they just call that the Currie Cup final? That's why it's been postponed. They should just let it double up. Let it be round one and the Currie Cup final.
As you know, I'm maintaining this fiction that the Currie Cup is not being played this year. It's not. It's a figment of your imagination.
It is, though. It's now impacting the ERC. So
but the ERC is real, and so yes, I would consent to having the ERC be a overlapping sort of weird final of the Currie Cup. Sure,
they could do that. They could definitely do that. They could definitely do that.
But it'd be a trivia question for years to come.
It would be, wouldn't it?
The stumper.
It would be. Round one of the Premiership in England sees Bath and Northampton straight back into a rematch of the final at the Rec to kick things off. That'll be
I've decided to be a full-on Bath fan. I'm a fan of the Bath.
I think I might be becoming a Bath fan.
I've always been kind of a closet Bath fan, but now I'm like all in. I think I like their vibe, and I think I like their unis too. I like a lot of the new logos and uniforms coming out. We should have a little chat about that soon too.
There is something about the blue, black and white. I must say. Round three of the top 14, and we're into garden variety stages here now. Bordeaux playing Racing could be interesting. Stade Francais against Toulon could be interesting, but they could both be boring as buggery too. So
I'll wait until halfway through the season of the top 14 before I pay attention much to them.
Yeah,
it's 1,000 games, and I have to wait and see like who's going.
And that works for La Rochelle as well. So why should we care? But a shout out to our mate Rian Lowe, who will be at Ellis Park for the Currie Cup final on Saturday between the Lions and the Sharks. But there it is, mate. Full time on another Rugby Championship edition of Games of the Week. It's getting closer.
This shit's getting real, man. Hey, I want to also do a little reveal. I'm actually been requested to be the voiceover in a play that's going to be in Cork in Munster.
What?
And I am playing the part of CJ Stander. I'm the stand-in for Stander. I have a voiceover that's being recorded, and it's going to be in October. And I'm thinking of going over there to sit in the audience and hear my voiceover. Yeah. I've got a monologue. I've got like a soliloquy.
They should be flying you over for that. They should absolutely. But tell us what you think at the 8-9 combo on all the socials, or leave your thoughts right here in the comment section on the 8-9 YouTube channel. You can tell Harry and I on the socials in our usual places as well. And as we mentioned at the top, go back and find episode 32 of the 8-9 combo with Sumo Stevenson. It genuinely is another great rugby chat to kick the weekend off. Please do ensure that you are followed and subscribed on your pod platform of choice and on YouTube as well, and get every episode as soon as it drops, which includes the test match postmortem following Bledisloe 1 in Sydney, where we will be together. And I still haven't quite worked out how we're going to do this in the same room, but we'll get there. It'll be fine. It might not look normal, but it will be fine. Don't forget to head to rugbypass.tv, where you can see the 2019 series of the original Chasing the Sun, and now, of course, the 2023 series, Chasing the Sun 2, right there on rugbypass.tv. So sign up free and watch it wherever you are in the rugby world. This is Games of the Week from the 8-9 combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realize you needed, coming from the podcast double act you already had. I'm Brett McKay. He's Harry Jones. And we'll be back in your ears together on Saturday night, Australia and New Zealand time, with a Bledisloe Cup edition of the Test Match Postmortem.
Come, Bledisloe with us. Get your Bledisloe on.
Hey, mate, I'll see you on Friday.
Oh, yeah. Friday morning.